Okay, the show is going to start in 1, 2, and 3.
You're watching SchreckTeck, where tech is Shrekky. This show is sponsored by Synapse 3DI at www.synapse3di.com and by Relate Corporation at www.relate.com.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is SchreckTeck episode number, they told me 38. I will believe them.
38,
I'm Rick Zanotti, and next to me, to my left over here, is Gina Schreck. Hey, Gina.
Good morning. This was a fast week. I just feel like didn't we just do a show yesterday?
It was yesterday.
I thought it was.
We've had quantum dilation. Here we are.
This was like a super fast week that just flew by. And did you do anything exciting?
No, just worked a lot.
Well,
a lot of work.
Exciting.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
Backed
a lot
up.
Of work.
Backed up, catching up.
And I've already started Christmas shopping, so I'm excited because I placed my first online order of a few things, so I can officially say I've started. So that's good.
That is good. And you want to introduce our special guest today?
Yeah, I was going to
Our
say.
very special guest today.
Do we leave her hidden behind the curtain a little longer?
We could.
It's very exciting because, it's always about social, and we're always talking about social business, and today we're going to shift gears a little bit and cross over another boundary that Rick is familiar with, and we're going to talk social learning with the evanescence. I got to use one of Rick's big words.
The evanescence.
Yeah, Trish Uhl. Welcome, Trish.
Hey, Trish, how are you?
Hey, Rick. Hey, Gina. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I am well, thank you.
Our pleasure. You look good.
Feel good.
Yeah, very fun.
And for those who don't know, and I'm bringing it up only because I love stories like Trish's, you are a cancer survivor.
I am one of 26 million worldwide.
This is great.
Dedicate to that.
This is great.
That's awesome.
You look good, you look healthy, you look energetic. Life is good.
Okay, what does your coffee
very
mug
good.
say?
I'm so sorry?
What does your coffee mug say?
Oh, well,
Anything
actually,
fun?
there are folks in the chat room who will recognize, thanks to Diane and Colleen.
Oh, look at
So it's
that.
got Owl's Ledge on the one side, and then my Yay Cake.
Oh, that's cute.
Yay,
that
I
awesome?
love that.
And it's about the right size for my caffeine intake on a per cup basis, which is fabulous.
And I have a little tiny mug today, but this is actually one of the things you can go online and order at Jib Jab. And I love Jib Jab, and I created this one with my family ice skating. And, you put all the little faces in, and you can order products now. So it's, now's the time. Get on there and order.
Jib jab.
Jib jab.
Yep.
So, yeah. Cheers, Trish.
Anyway,
Cheers.
well, we've talked about this before, but Trish is the center of our internet universe, especially social media universe. Everyone I know is actually due to Trish. I know no one other than whoever Trish introduced me to.
Right.
I am very antisocial. So thanks to Trish, I have friends. But seriously, she introduced me to Terrence, who's become a very good friend and associate in a lot of ways. And through Terrence, I met Gina. And coincidentally, Colleen and Diane, we've been working with now for about 6 months. And I didn't know they knew you. And they worked with you. That was just a full circle coincidence. And so it's been really cool. It's been good. And other than that, I have no other friends, but that's okay. No, I'm just joking.
Well, and I think by rights, Rick, and especially from a couple of episodes ago, you should tell the story about how we met, because that has it certainly has a social learning.
We met on Twitter, actually.
Oh, we didn't.
Well, Second Life came afterwards.
No, Second Life came first.
No, that's when we met virtually for real.
That was the third life.
No, remember, I met you on Twitter. We were just kind of twittering, and you invited me to a Second Life ASDD party at the island. And I was flying around, and that's how I actually met you virtually. And then we did the eLearn chat interview, which was audio in those days.
Now, and Trish, do you still go into Second Life occasionally?
Every once in a while. Actually, it was not an ASTD event. It was another learning vendor based out of the West.
San Diego, I think.
Something like that.
Yep.
But but that was my first. It was a holiday party that they were having, and that was my first holiday party in Second Life. And Rick was the avatar who was anonymously stalking me because his audio wouldn't work.
Right, so I just kept trying to go up to her going, hey, hey, hey. and nothing would happen. I go, what's with this second? I can't even pick up a girl anywhere now.
Thanks, Rick.
Oh, that is too funny.
No, but it was really funny because I was really trying to get the audio to work, and I'm just kind of nudging behind her, and she's looking at me like, who is this weird person behind me?
Who are you?
That's like great. So I'm like hanging out in Second Life. You know, I've discovered how to, put the Santa hat on without disrobing entirely in Second Life. Change my shoes and ice skates, and I'm being stalked by an anonymous stranger. It was fabulous.
Gosh, that is
it's a
so
great
funny.
way to meet people.
It was. It was actually a lot of fun. Well, what was funny is I was taking the tour because some guy caught me in the middle going, do you know where you're going? No. Do you know what you're doing here? No. I was invited here by someone. I think I've been trapped. So they put me on this thing that I wound up flying around the island, and as I'm flying, I hear Trish's distinct echo. That's Trish. So I figured out a way to jump off whatever I was on, landed next to her, kind of like a really bad flying bird, and then tried to get my mic to work, and then I was trying to figure out a point to interrupt her and the other lady who were talking. So I rudely did after a couple of minutes, and then we met again virtually on Skype. So, and again, you and I, Trish, have never met in person yet.
No,
which is really funny. I haven't met Gina in person. See, I really don't exist. I'm just a figment of everyone's imagination.
It's really a hologram.
A hologram.
It's a Rick hologram.
I'm the first generation hologram here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
keep saying, I feel like I've known Rick forever, and I feel like we've met, but it's like, you know what? We've never met in person. So,
no, it's really funny.
Yeah, it is funny. So Trish, I'd love for you to share, just especially for people who aren't familiar with your work, what do you do in the e-learning world? What's your type of client that you work with, and what are you doing?
So in the e-learning world, I think people most know us now. Owl's Ledge is my company. They most know us because of the ASCD competency model. So ASCD has been publishing the workplace learning and performance competency model for, at least a couple of decades. And now that they've got the Certified Professional in Learning and Performance, the CPLP, which is a professional certification for people in learning and performance, the competency model defines that professional standard. So a lot of people know us. We use a lot of technology in order to help people be successful becoming CPLP certified. So that's actually a lot of what my reputation and Owl's Ledge's reputation is all about right now. Yeah, CPLP.
That's cool. That's really cool. And you say you use a lot of technology. I mean, what are you, because to be honest, the training, I find it interesting. A lot in the corporate training world are not really, well, I should say there's a group that are really focused on how do we incorporate more technology, and then you get into the larger corporate worlds who are saying, okay, I don't know that this fits. I mean, how did you bridge, or how are you still bridging that gap, trying to bring the use of cool technology tools that really do help bridge that and share learning and get that knowledge out there, because it's a tough sell, I find, in corporate environments.
I agree, and that's actually one of the biggest things that we as learning and performance professionals need to be able to do, is to address, not only do we have to learn social learning techniques ourselves, and then be able to leverage the tools in order to be able to deliver using those techniques, but then we also need to be able to make the case for why those modalities should exist within organizations. And then that gets into all of the, perceived technical issues, governance problems, learning curve, not only for us as professionals, but then also for the audiences that we serve. I actually started, my very first e-learning project was for Manpower back in the mid-90s. And
Wow.
They were actually at a point of just putting in their wide area network and local area networks in their offices for the first time, 1,600 offices across the U.S. And, back then it was like we were enamored with the technology. It was like, wow, look at what it is that we can do. We can reach all these audiences. We can serve up all this content. And we had sort of that, if you build it, they will come mentality. And that's not at all what happens. I mean, one of the biggest things that we have to learn is to have an understanding of what people have access to in their native environments, in their everyday work life, and how they can leverage or not leverage those tools. For instance, later on I did e-learning in a law firm, and the grand plan was that the legal secretaries would be able to sit at their open cubicles and they could access the learning at any time from their desks. Well, you can't do that if you've got 2 partners that you're supporting and 3 baby associates. You're never going to get enough time at your desk and enough headspace to be able to sit there and actually, go through any kind of content. So we had to get creative in making sure that the environment supported the deployment of those types of tools and that kind of delivery mechanism. So we're going, this is the next evolution of that. This is, and then we are in organizations where, we as learning and performance are an emerging profession. IT is an emerging profession. For 20 years, IT's responsibility has been to lock everything down and to centralize the technology. And, we're one of the functional areas within the organization who's knocking on IT's door and going, hey, we need to open up the firewall and give people access to Facebook and Twitter and so on and so forth because we want to do X, Y, and Z. And they're telling us no. Right. Not all the time, but so it's another dimension of this that we need to learn. How do we have the conversation in order to make the case not only with leadership, but then, other folks in other functional areas, support departments like the IT department.
Right, because they can almost be counter-selling, sort of selling against you of why it shouldn't be done. And it's easier to say no than it is to do the work to say yes. So that is a sometimes tough road to cross.
Well, having been an ex-IT pro who ran IT departments, no.
Right, exactly.
Rick,
right, put the kibosh.
Because you know what they do? They come and say, "Can we open up our network to everybody in the world?" No. And and I think the problem is you have to make the use case that you're actually doing this for a purposeful reason for the company, and a lot of people don't know. I should say, don't have the communication skills to explain what they're trying to do. And as a result, they get stopped at the gate. That happens a lot in the learning area and other areas too within company marketing, same thing, or when they want to run a lot of stuff through pipes, and that's the problem. The bandwidth issue is still a bandwidth in most companies. It's gotten better in our homes, but if you look at most organizations, we still run into the problem that we don't have unlimited bandwidth in companies. Like, for example, we work with GE, that's one of our clients, and 700,000 employees, there's limited bandwidth. They have internal social media, if you will. They use same time, IBM's or Lotus's same time, for texting each other in meetings, but they don't really allow almost anything. And plus, they do a lot of financial work, so nothing gets out. And I think that's the nature of some of the businesses. It's opening up in some. It's closed in others just for security reasons. But there is a lot of social media that's happening actually within the company. Not so much external, but within they're using a lot of tools.
And I agree with you, Rick. And those are some of the logistics and infrastructure challenges that, again, a lot of IT organizations are facing because, here's how the world has changed. And that's my background. My background is actually in IT. I'm actually in, previous lives an IT project manager. I was an application specialist for Xerox for a while there. So my background is IT, learning and performance, and project management. And what's interesting to me now is that, the way that we work is like this. Where, all 3 of us are sitting in our home offices and having this, delightful conversation with an audience that's global. And we're no longer confined to the 4 walls. So when we were confined to the 4 walls and mostly, work groups and work teams were people within the organizations that we served and within our functional area or within our department, it made sense to lock things down. But now we're not only working, cross-functional teams and organizations, but a lot of times we're working with suppliers, we're working with vendors, we're working with our customers, we're working with our competitors where, there's all of this collaboration. And on the consulting side of what we do on Owl's Ledge is we do a lot around change management and business readiness, usually with a technology bent. And so a lot of the IT departments that I wind up working with, I do kind of a crossover between IT and learning and performance, and that's it. How do you still protect the corporate assets that need to be, those resources that need to be protected, but how do you do it in a way that instead of it being, in the black box, has more of that permeable shell so that people can get to that content. Those who are authorized to have access to it can get to it. And not only get to it, but get to it in a way that's device agnostic. So if you're coming in on an Android platform, or you're coming in on Windows, or you're coming in on iOS, that you've actually got access to those corporate resources when you need them, under appropriate controls. And that's how IT is really changing. So, and at the same time, again, they're trying to figure this out. And again, for 20 years, that was not what their remit was to do. And here we are on the learning side, knocking on their door going, hey guys, let's give everybody Twitter.
Well, no, it's also interesting because if you look at some of the recent stories, what was the Department of Justice? I forgot how many employees were doing porn, and that was getting right in, and they finally go, I think we have a problem.
Shut everything.
And they didn't have their firewall set up correctly. They weren't doing any filtering. And a lot of the good stuff can be let in. A lot of the bad stuff can be kept out. And
anybody who's ever done a laptop refresh or a desktop refresh has seen some interesting content
this is true.
over the years. This is not anything.
It's not new. No, it's not new.
No.
It's just more easily accessible in every which way.
And I look at the whole thing of just social learning, and where organizations maybe just have, they're still looking internal and what's being provided here. But regardless of the industry that you're in, when you look at how do we stay on top of, and I am always challenging people within organizations, how do you stay on top of your industry? How do you know? How are you improving your skills? Because I think too often learning is only when somebody tells me I have to go to a training class. And, now with, learning on demand, we can take it with us on our iPads, we can access it on our mobile devices, like you're saying. It's really now it's about getting creative and what type of content works well on mobile devices, and how do we get people to engage with groups to discuss that. And what are there any new creative things that you're seeing companies or individuals do in that area?
Well, Gina, you're bringing up some really good points. I mean, I've got a few little goodies here off to the side. So this is actually a closer view here of the ASTD competency model. And again, the significance of this is now a professional standard that's actually recognized by the U.S. Department of Labor. And ASTD is actually working on getting the competency model recognized by other government agencies in other parts of the world. So, really, again, it defines a professional standard for people in learning and performance, which basically means that there's a roadmap. There's a roadmap here. So if you're an instructional designer today and you're used to, designing learning for formal training events, and you need to have a better understanding of how to move into these other modalities, how to move into social learning techniques, how to use social media, this is one of the roadmaps that you can use for your own professional development and skill development in order to be able to start building out into those different areas. So actually the competency model, this was just refreshed in 2009, and the big refresh that happened in 2009 was all about social learning, has everything to do with social learning. So you bring up a good point. It's not only about the delivery mechanisms, but it's also about the concept of co-creation and collaboration. So in the same way that IT has, is in the process of learning how to have some flexibility and control, we, as people in learning and performance, are also learning on how to give up control. We are no longer the authority figures standing in, front of a classroom, seen as the experts in a particular content area, and then expected to just kind of fill up people's heads.
Right.
So now it's more of, one of the coolest things that I have done in recent technology was actually about a week ago, when an instructional designer in the Midwest had a design challenge that she was trying to solve, and we all jumped on Twitter and did a design jam. And basically what she did, it was fabulous. What she did was she took the e-learning module that she was working on, took some screenshots of it, put together a Google Doc, like a Word doc, posted it up on Google Docs, made it an open document, and in it, she showed, where she'd gotten so far, and then described the challenge that she was having. And then she jumped on Twitter and basically did all hailing signals and said, hey, anybody who's around and, has some time and some bandwidth, can you guys jump in this Google Doc, take a look at what I'm working on, and then, provide some feedback or some kind of comment. And, she basically, we use the LearnChat tag. We use the hashtag LearnChat, LRN chat, just to be able to, tie the conversation together on Twitter.
Right.
And there were like 6 of us that just, sat around in different parts of the country and just really looked at what Holly was working on and gave her some feedback. It was the coolest thing.
That is really cool.
And it's no longer, again, us being confined to the 4 walls.
Right.
So our learning has been accelerated because I have access to you guys. I have access to the folks that are in the chat room right now. I have access to the folks that are on Twitter. I can, there's this huge network of people that I can tap into from all of these different areas. Not only learning and performance, but IT, marketing, so on and so forth. There's all this convergence that's happening, and people are just more accessible than ever, which is why I like being in the middle of everything. I get to pick up the phone or jump on Twitter or whatever and just reach out to people and say, hey, I'm trying to do this. Can you help me?
And when you were saying this, I got excited thinking, how cool is that no matter what we're doing, if we're connected ahead of time with a group socially, you can jump on Twitter and you all of a sudden have this small brainstorming group. I could see the challenges in that is, how do you monitor whether somebody's using good judgment to go outside and open it up for discussion? But I'm looking at that going, wow, no matter what you're doing, again, if you have that network already established, what an awesome thing, resources to tap into.
And it's now time for our soap opera.
No, sorry, that was my Superman. That was the Superman button.
I was thinking, okay, was that a sound effect I was supposed to?
No, it wasn't me.
Me.
It wasn't me. I'm busy silently practicing the incompetency model right here, so don't worry about it.
Well, I thought that was the food pyramid when you showed me.
The food pyramid. Have you had breakfast yet, Gina?
It is about consumption. That's right. It is about consumption. Well,
yeah. And Gina, how's the chat room doing?
Oh, everyone looks awesome. Actually, they're all talking about who they've met in person.
And it's fun. We actually got to meet Leva in person last week. That was great.
And one of the discussion points is Rick real?
Am I real?
Is he real? And there's some people trying to prove that you are because they saw you in person, but they don't realize.
That could have been a hologram, too.
They don't understand 3D technology today.
That's right.
Just technology, folks.
Yeah, astral projection. That's it.
Astro Boy.
Astro Boy.
Just a matter of time.
Yeah, to me, I love Twitter for that reason. And there's our random sound effect I was waiting for. And I just think there's still so many people that see Twitter as useless. They just think it's either they see it as too much marketing or they see it as useless blathering. And sure, there's a lot of useless blathering, but I always say if that's all you're consuming, then you're connected to the wrong people. And if you get involved in some tweet chats, I think those to me are the most strategic use of Twitter, is to get plugged into a group like LearnChat. I didn't realize how big this has grown. There's over 540 tweet chats that go on all week, during the week. And that Google Doc that's out there that has all the tweet chats, to me, is just stunning to look at, to say here are over 500 groups of people who are meeting online via Twitter using a tool that who would have ever dreamed it could be used like this to share knowledge and build a network. And we were discussing this at this association meeting of Twitter has become the association. I mean, it's this group of people that's just a cool way to learn and share, and like you just experienced, that of jumping in and helping each other out.
And I think, what Twitter in particular, I know from my experience, and I know this is for many people, number one, because you're limited to 140 characters, so you have to learn how to be succinct. But number two is that I got into Twitter because it was available on my iPhone, and my iPhone is with me everywhere. And at the time that I first started using Twitter, I was participating in LearnChat and other Twitter chats from Metra. I was on the train commuting back out of, downtown Chicago, Well, if it had required, internet connectivity on a laptop, I wouldn't, I wouldn't have had that kind of. We didn't have the Wi-Fi antennas yet, but I had access to the cell data on my iPhone, and so then that gave me the ability in that timing to be able to participate in those types of chats and to start using that kind of technology. So again, it has to do with this. Device agnostic. Different people can use different tools and different platforms in order to be able to participate with that particular software. And then, again, having a means, adults, from a learning standpoint, we're all about relevance. If it's not relevant to me at this time, then I'm probably not going to be interested. And that's okay. But the minute that you find a relevant application of that tool to a problem that you're trying to solve, or some kind of communication challenge or access that you're having, that's when these things become beneficial and people find the value in them.
And that's usually when technology is adopted. People have to see, how does this fit into my world? How can I really utilize it? And I think getting creative and out of the box is sometimes it's hard for some, but I think it's one of those things, is looking at a tool and saying, how can I use this within my business, within my organization? How does this piece of technology, and really flipping things sometimes to say, how can I use this? Maybe not for how it was intended. I mean, Twitter was never intended to be used like it's being used today. Facebook was intended for college students to connect, and look what that's become. So I think sometimes it's looking at a technology tool and saying, how can I utilize this to benefit? And I guess first is, what is the problem I'm trying to solve? And are there tools out there that might do that already before going down the path of reinvention?
And that would be more my approach, what pain point are we trying to solve? Because nobody wants to use technology for technology's sake. We want to use technology because it's actually solving some kind of a problem. And what's amazing to me now is tools like Facebook in particular, and Skype. This is how Generation Z is getting to know their family members who are outside of their, who are not geographically close in proximity. I know a lot of kids that walk around with their iPads or with their laptops, and they're on the East Coast and they've got grandparents down in Florida or out on the West Coast, and they're walking around the house and they're Skyping using the webcam, and that's how they're learning relationships. So they're learning their relationships instead of being analog and then moving to a technology platform in order to maintain them. Their primary form of socialization is starting with the technology, and then later on they get to perhaps meet even family members in person. And
Hey Gina, I think we're getting a lot of echo on your speakers.
On my speakers?
Yeah, I'm hearing everything double. Do you have speakers on? Or just
I've got mute speakers. I turned it on and then off.
Is it Trish?
Do you still hear echo?
No.
I don't know, I haven't changed anything.
Okay. There was just a lot of echo going on.
But now it's gone?
I think it's gone now. Yep, I'm not hearing it right now.
Chat room, anybody hear echo? Huh. Okay. I think maybe whatever it was, maybe it was my train, that ghost train came back.
That ghost train,
I need to
thought it was a barking dog.
That again. And I'm trying to see if there's questions in the chat room. I am trying to monitor over here. There's, good morning, Mr. I'm just going to say, Hypnotic. Whoa, good morning, Mr. Hypnotic. I like that name. Twitter names, yeah. But yeah, I just think, looking at tools differently than sometimes, I think sometimes we look for things to recreate things or invent things to solve problems, when there might be something that's out there if we just tweak it and use it a different way. So, which is a fun thing I'm sure that you do, is getting to work with organizations. What are they trying to solve? What tools are already out there? Which means you have to kind of stay up on top of what's already out there. And I think in our world it's fun because you're always exploring new things and new.
Well, there's also another thing that's going on right now. One person can no longer know it all.
Right.
There's just too much out there.
True.
Yeah, I remember in the old IT days, you could literally know your whole system and know what was going on. Not that easy anymore. You really need to know a lot more, and it's very hard to assimilate everything.
Just don't tell my kids that.
No.
I want them to still to think that I know it all.
Ah.
and think about it, so now we've got, and we have to do this shift. We have to do this shift on an IT standpoint. We have to do this shift on a learning and performance standpoint. We have to do it from an e-learning standpoint. We've got the millennials in the workforce now, and they're demanding these tools. They're demanding access to these tools because this is how it is that they socialize and they communicate, and this is how they learn. So now,
sorry about that. That was the millennial comment.
And now, if you think about the Generation Z, so the generation that's coming up, that's again so used to having relationships via the technology, supported via the technology, as they enter the workforce, and we're working with them as they enter school and all the rest of it. They are going to continue to push for these tools and for these ways of learning, and that's. If you hear Tony Bingham, who's the CEO of ASTD, speak at any of the, especially the keynotes at ASTD events, this is a lot of what he's talking about. So we worldwide have to continue to get better and get ready for this. And again, it starts with eating our own dog food. We have to learn it.
Well, and I think some of it is an intimidation factor. It just seems like technology is coming at us so fast, and if you don't love all the tech tools, it can be overwhelming to people. But I keep saying, look at just little things that we can do, such as if you're already on Facebook, find one of your Facebook friends and say, I would like to video chat with you on Facebook. I want to test this out. And if you are a Google Plus user, try a Hangout where you just get as many of your friends. And if you only have one friend, then hire some people to get on there and do a video.
Or go to Second Life. That's right.
I just think it's playing with the tools, and then when you're playing with them, which has always been my motto. If you play with the technology, suddenly you see how it can solve a problem that perhaps you have. Playing with some of the tools you're already familiar with, some of the new features. And I look at when you said the young people, my daughter in college, who's a junior in college, she gets on Skype all the time. We Skype her all the time, but then she Skypes with her friends, and they do study nights where they can just sit and chat. My 15-year-old she uses the Facebook video chat constantly. They'll be on there instead of just chatting and typing. They pop up the video and they're sitting on her bed, and her and her friend are in there chatting. And I always think that she's there with her. I always go, I thought I just heard Brooke. Oh, she's on Facebook chat. So looking at how are they using the tools now, and like you said, bringing it into the workplace, it's natural for them to say, hey, I have a question about something. I'm going to pop open a video chat with this person, or send them a text message. So I just think we have to open up the tools. Most of us have a cell phone that we don't even know how to operate. And I did hear a startling statistic that said only 11% of people in America say they know how to use all the features on their phones. 11%. And I thought, here we're paying all this money for these devices, and we're using them as a phone, when they can do so much more. So I do think it's a matter of looking
but it's all about being
here.
Cool. It's not about being useful.
I guess that must be it, because
the bigger the better. That's the cell phone adage.
Yeah. And even within an organization, and they're looking at how do we create content with our teams. Well, why not give them a camera and tell them to create a 5-minute learning piece on what they do and share it internally? Why not make it a fun game? Why not? There's so many just simple things that still aren't being done because we think we have to hire. This has to obviously be a big project, and we have to study it for 2 years, and just play with the tools that are right there.
We've got about 4 minutes left to the show, so we've already gone 40 minutes almost. Pretty good.
No, we haven't, Rick. No, your clock, you forgot to set it back.
No, I didn't. No, it goes fast.
Well, to your point, Gina, I think that there are a few different ways that people can start leveraging the technology. I think you're absolutely right. The first thing is, come up with a problem that you're trying to solve. What's the pain point that you're trying to solve? And one of the things that people in learning and performance can do within an organization is, if you think about a group that's geographically dispersed, like a sales force, that needs access to just-in-time information more now than ever. They need to be able to, stay in touch with each other. They need to be able to stay in touch with, new products and services that are coming out of the organization. They need to be able to have access to information, and information, not data, real information that they can use and, that they can leverage and put to use right away. And then if you pair that up with, social learning ultimately is not about the technology. It's about how we as humans learn. We tend to be social creatures, except for Rick on occasion. We tend to be, social creatures, and by being surrounded by groups of people, this is how we learned language. This is how we learn to walk. This is how we learn to behave in social situations. We learn from each other. I mean, that's what really resonates. And so, you can start by just taking a voice recorder and going out into the sales force and collecting anecdotal stories from the most successful salespeople, and then turning those into, little podcasts. And by podcast, because people get tripped up on the term. Okay, well, if we're making podcasts, then everybody's got to have an iPod. No, podcast is just an audio delivery method. You can take the audio file, burn it to CD. You can take the audio file, have people put it on whatever MP3 player. It's device agnostic. But you capture story. We're used to communicating in story. I think you guys talked with Brent about this last episode. Story gives us context. It gives us characters. Stories resonate with us because we as human beings, that's exactly what we do, is we do this. We tell each other stories. And you start with that, with something simple, and then you think about what actual devices or tools do people have in their environment when they would most likely be using this stuff. So if you think about Salesforce, they're either in the car or on the plane. They're probably somewhere where they don't have an internet connection. So they don't need video and they don't need graphics because they're probably driving. They just need to hear the sound of voice. And you can get started with cascading and populating those types of stories. And sales isn't the only organization to do that. But then now you can repurpose content. What if you then take that audio and have it transcribed?
Right.
And then you take that information, you glean the nuggets of that, and you put that out on a wiki on the SharePoint site. And then you set it up so that people can comment. But it's about relinquishing control. It's about co-creating and collaboration. And it's about inviting people to, really what's this, Web 2.0, Enterprise 2.0, quickly moving into Web 3.0, Enterprise 3.0, models where instead, again, I'm not the expert and you got to come to me to get the information and I'm going to hold it close to my chest.
Right.
It's about it's about all of us. And then the last piece there is it's managing all of that. So, that's the rise in the learning circles right now. We talk about, people who are learning curators, who are content curators, because there's so much information that's out there. Rick, when you were talking about technology systems before, there's so much information out there. How do you get at what it is that you need when it is that you need it? And so our go forward as a profession, as the learning profession, is to become more of, less of that formal control authoritarian model and more the curator model. And I know, so Gina, Rick, comments, I'm going to hold up some people for people to take a look at if you're looking at getting started with this stuff as we wind down here. But David
great.
Kelly, you can't beat learning from David Kelly. You can find David LND Dave. Yep, he's a great learning content curator right now. Fabulous if you want to see how Twitter is used for back channel chats for different types of events, whether we're talking about DevLearn or Elliot Macy's, Learning 2011 just happened. And I've got a quick little message here. Actually, there's a really good book, Jane Bozarth, You Can't Get Better Than Jane, and right. Social Media for Trainers.
And shout out to Jane, who's traveling right now. She said she couldn't be here live, but she'll be listening later. So, Jane, we love you. Yeah, and that last one, it was at LND Dave. It looked like a C.
Oh, sorry.
So I always call him Landy Dave because I always said
Landy Dave.
When I first saw his Twitter handle, I thought it was a pirate name, Landy Dave.
And I think he doesn't like that because he always says it's L&D Dave.
L&D, yeah, I know. I drive him crazy with it. It's L&D Dave and Jane.
And I have a quick special message for Jane. Jane, it's on. The next conference, we are so totally ticket to ride. This is the gauntlet being thrown. Just saying.
Love it. Love it.
And then, another site to take a look at, too. Now, look, I'm an ASTD chapter leader. I'm actually president of the Chicagoland chapter of ASTD right now. We're one of the largest and the oldest, actually, out of 125 in the country. Shout out to all of my ASTD chapter leader peeps. But, I mean, Training Magazine...
I love your high-tech tags for the video.
Isn't this fabulous? Isn't this great?
Yeah.
I mean, I love analog. Analog is the way to go. But, Training Mag Network is another great place to go if you want to learn more about social learning. You can see, Anders Gronstedt's got material out there. I think Clark Quinn's got material out there. Carl Kapp's got material out there. I mean, just some really fabulous stuff.
Yeah. There's so many great people, and it's interesting because most of them I have met just virtually, and then at a few of the ASTD conferences, met some live. But it's just connect with a group of people virtually, regardless of the industry you're in, to continue your own learning. I look at it and go, it's our own e-learn plan. It's how are we staying on top of our industry and connect with smart people. And there's so many smart people out there. It's get together. And we did. We were talking about content curation. Rick and I are writing a book, The Content Hoarders. It's a new reality show. So.
Yeah, you should feature my inbox. Seriously, it looks like an episode of Hoarders, but yeah. Well, and that going back to the certification, I have very selfish reasons of why it is that I'm involved with the ASTD CPLP credential, and that is, I want to help radically change learning and performance worldwide. That is my mission. And I tell people, I survived cancer for this. I went through chemo for this. I am committed to being around
to get my mission done.
That's right. I am here to do that. And part of that, look, I don't really ultimately care if people get CPLP certified or not. But what I do care about is that competency model. And I care about the competency model because, again, it's a roadmap of professional development. And by being involved with people in learning and performance as professional development and helping them move into these areas like social learning and managing organizational, knowledge and managing the learning function and all of those other types of areas, by being involved with that, I'm building a community of practitioners that I can go to, pick up the phone and call, Skype, tweet, Facebook, whatever, and that is my selfish reason. Is I get to be involved with that community because I'm helping to build it and drive it forward. So, thanks guys for having me on the show today. I really
it's awesome.
Oh, thank you for being on the show. We appreciate it.
I am a huge fan of both of you, and so very, very thankful to have both of you in my life.
And remember to send her the check for that, Gina.
My check is already coming. Yeah, it's a mutual love fest because, again, I just think it's one of those things. Again, I feel as if so many people that I've met online, I feel as if I were in your town, I would have no problem picking up the phone saying, hey, I'd love to meet you for coffee, take you to lunch, whatever. I'd have, I'm grateful for the connections. And
when I materialize, I will actually meet people in person. It doesn't happen often, but I will.
Well, and that's the piece too, right? Is that I think, again, we're social creatures and we want a sense of belonging, and many people in learning are a one-person department within the organizations that we serve, and
sure.
And this gives us a social circle that expands beyond the four walls, and you get to find your tribe, right? You get to find other people who are cut from the same cloth, and are on sort of the same wavelength, and that's what we want to do. That's what we're all here to do, is to connect.
To discover I'm not the only weird one.
Fabulous.
Oh, that was like, okay.
What happened?
I said, I'm not the only weird one, and then there was silence, so maybe I am.
Oh.
Weirdness is relative. Remember that, Gina.
It's awkward.
That's right.
Well, anyway, guys, I think that's the end of this show. Otherwise, we're going to run into about a 600 megabyte show. So we got to, it'll go down to like 150 when it gets to Vimeo. But
Rick's got to watch that thing for us because, we could go on all day. But
thank
you so much. This was awesome. Thank you for everyone in the chat room. Connect. Yeah, is this your, no? Where's your tag for your Twitter handle?
Oh, for me, that's really kind of crazy. I'm at Trish Uhl. TRISHUHL.
There we go.
Easy.
I'll put
And
it
actually-
in.
And we haven't done it yet, but we want to wish everybody Yuletide greetings from Trish.
I love that. Jingle all the way. And
Jingle all the way.
And last week we did have a request. Larry was asking, how do we pull the content out of the chat room? I'm just going to copy it. And
Yeah, there's no way. They won't let you save it.
I know, it's a bummer.
In fact, every time you do a new show, it erases the previous content.
Yeah.
So that's just the limitation of the way Justin does it.
I tried last week to get back in there.
I couldn't get in either. I tried. It didn't work.
So I'm copying it right now for all of you. If there's any last words, 10 steps. Is that a shameless self-promotion?
Yes.
I love it.
It is.
Speak now or forever save your chat.
Yeah. Any last chats? Throw your Twitter handle in there, and we will look. I love these are our commercials going by as I speak. I'll put this on our Facebook page, facebook.com/SchreckTeck. We'll put it up there. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week and learn something today.
That's right.
All right. Have a good one, everyone. Take care. Thanks, Trish.
Thanks. Thank you both.
And Gina, do we have anybody next week?
Oh yes, matter of fact, I was rescheduling Tim to talk about how he's using Foursquare.
Foursquare.
Yeah, I want to start looking at all these different platforms people are using and what creative uses are out there.
That's one of my favorite ones, I think.
Do
I
am
you-
actually a location on Foursquare.
Your location.
Oh yeah, I was supposed to say that. Larry's the mayor of you.
Larry's your mayor?
Larry's the mayor of Trish. Oh my
That
God,
man
he's
is
the mayor.
everywhere.
Trish Uhl, that's right. I'm next to Trish Uhl. That's right.
I tell you, Larry will take over the country soon from Oklahoma with nobody knowing it.
Exactly. He's like one of these guys. He's kind of like the silent, and he's coming up. He is taking over the world.
Well, anyway, I guess we're gonna shut the recording down now. Goodbye, everybody. We'll be live after this.